Rangers will have no fans in the Champions League, and it turns out they will also have no fans at the first Old Firm game of the season, as Celtic have told their rivals they will not be getting an away allocation at Parkhead. Welcome back, guys, to Son of Scotland TV. A lot of Scottish football news breaking today, and probably the biggest news of them all, outside of the Adam Adea transfer, is the fact that Celtic have continued this away fan lockout. Now, both clubs were looking to get back to allowing away fans in to the Old Firm games for this season. However, Celtic have announced today that they will not be doing an away allocation. No Rangers fans will be allowed in. And they have put this down to basically Rangers not being able to implement the correct safety requirements for the second Old Firm game of the season, when it's going to be held at Ibrox, or who knows, maybe in a really, worst case scenario, Hampden Park. Now, you would expect Ibrox to be ready by that time. Everyone's expecting that. However, Celtic are saying that Rangers were unable to make the safety requirement measures. Now, what exactly does that mean? Celtic haven't elaborated on it. I'm assuming Celtic mean that Rangers cannot guarantee that the Old Firm game will be back at Ibrox, and therefore maybe Celtic are not interested in the away fans travelling to Hampden because it could be an issue with safety measures or whatnot. But they've basically just come out and says that due to safety measures and Rangers not being able to guarantee them, then they are pulling out basically of their commitment to allowing away fans back in, which has made Rangers pretty angry. Rangers have responded to this with a quote, and obviously they're not pleased because both clubs were supposed to be agreeing to this. So a Rangers statement from the club today says, quote, Rangers was today informed that Celtic will make no allocation for away fans for the September Old Firm game. The allocation to be implemented by both clubs was clear, and Rangers was taking all the steps towards fulfilling that agreement. In the meantime, we can confirm that no away allocation will apply for the January Old Firm fixture at Ibrox. This is consistent with the reciprocity embedded in the agreement reached between the clubs and the SPFL. End of quote. So what this is Celtic not being content with Rangers. They're claiming that Rangers haven't put the right safety measures in place for the first Old Firm game at Ibrox, or at least Rangers' first Old Firm game, which we're assuming is going to take place at Ibrox, but I guess right now we can't guarantee it. So therefore, Celtic are not happy about that, and they have just denied Rangers the allocation to the first Old Firm game at Celtic Park, and in turn, Rangers have responded by just saying, well, if you're giving us no away allocation, then we're going to give you no away allocation. So for right now, there'll be no away fans in the first game, there'll be no away fans in the second game, and I guess there's a possibility of away fans in the final two, providing both teams end up in the same half of the split. But this is just a big mess. The league needs to step in, man. We need the SPFL, the SFA, I don't care who. Someone needs to step in, bang the heads of these two clubs together, and just say, look, you need to go back to the old ways. And I don't care what it's going to take to do so. This is a joke. The no away allocation fan thing is ridiculous. This was one of the best derbies in the world, and having no away fans there completely ruins the atmosphere, and it does take away from the match. You look at how good the Edinburgh derby has been in terms of atmosphere over the last few seasons in comparison to what we've seen in Glasgow. We look at the Dundee derby earlier in the season. How good was that derby when you had like a shitload of Dundee fans in there that you could hear how vocal they were? It almost sounded like a cup tie, that game at Tannadice, because there was so many Dundee fans in. Now at the Old Firm games, if the away team's leading it, it's like a library. It's absolutely silent. So they've completely ruined this derby, and they need to go back. And I get it, Rangers started this, it was pathetic because they were sick, I guess, of Celtic fans turning up to Ibrox and watching them scud their team, so they stopped that. Then Celtic stopped it, and then they started cutting it, and then Rangers started selling the tickets that they would give to the away allocation. They started making season tickets out of those seats. Now, Celtic started doing the same, but the problem is Celtic have 10,000 more capacity than Rangers. So Celtic could still go back to that 7,500. Rangers can't, because that 7,500 Rangers used to give to Celtic, they've now got season tickets out of a lot of those seats. So unfortunately, Rangers are the one that are preventing this from going back to normal, really, because they can't. They cannot go back to the allocation unless they unfairly take away a lot of season tickets. And they're not going to do that because that's a lot of money. You think of the amount of money they're making off those extra season tickets, whereas are they going to do that? Are they going to take those tickets away just for 2 Old Firm games a season, just to try and please Celtic and allow Celtic fans into the stadium? No, they're not going to do that. So I don't see any way, unless Rangers are forced into doing it, or unless Rangers expand the size of Ibrox to allow a bigger capacity. I don't see how this goes back to normal, and unfortunately it's going to be tit for tat, because Celtic look like they're just going to do whatever Rangers do. I mean, Celtic could afford to go back to 7,500, but the way they're looking at it is, why should we do it if they can't, or if they won't? And is that right? Is that wrong? Is that childish? Is that tit for tat? Not too sure, guys. Let us know what you think down below. But the whole thing's a mess, and yeah, I think this has hurt the Old Firm derbies 100%. And the quicker we can get it back to at least the maximum that Rangers can allow to do. I don't know what that is right now. Maybe like 2,500, 3,000, whatever Rangers can afford to give. That is what they should give, and Celtic should have to give the same. Although considering Celtic Park is bigger and Celtic can hold 10,000 more, Celtic should have to give, I would argue, a percentage of what Rangers give. So if Rangers can give Celtic 3,000 tickets, then Celtic should be giving Rangers about, I'm going to, quick maths here, maybe 3.5, 3.6, 3.7, considering they've got the bigger stadium. So sometimes that's how it's done in football. It's not just a, straight swap in terms of the amount of tickets. Sometimes it goes based on the percentage. So, to do it simply, if a stadium can hold, let's say, 50,000 and the other stadium holds 100,000, if the stadium that holds 50,000, if they're willing to give the away fans 5,000, then that means that the other team that holds 100,000, they would give that other team 10 because they've got double the capacity. So sometimes that's how it works with other games and competitions, rivalries and whatnot. So is that something that could work with Celtic and Rangers? I don't think so. I think Celtic would complain. I think Celtic would be like, well, it's not our fault we can have a bigger stadium, or we have more seats and a bigger capacity and whatnot. So, yeah, it's just a mess. Hopefully it gets back to normal, but, I mean, at this rate, I just don't really see it happening. I think a good sign, a step in the right direction, would be to give out the maximum that they can and stick to it. So if it's 2,500, make sure it's a minimum of 2,500 every single game. It feels like we're going back the way now, but back to the whole zero away fan allocation thing. But yeah, whatever, guys. Let me know what you think down below, and I'll catch you in the next one. Till then, peace.